Welcome back to the program, everybody. It is my honor and thrill to introduce and have on as a guest this week my friend Mike Graham. Mike's the president and co-founder of Midwestern Securities. He's been in this business for a couple decades. Mike, pleasure to have you here. Maybe tell us a little bit more about yourself and how and why you got into this business.
Glad to, Dan. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation. So how I got into this business, my dad was a wirehouse rep. So I grew up wanting to be in the business. I didn't know really, what he did at a young age. I knew he helped people, and he was my dad. So I felt like he had an important job helping people with money. And as I grew, my mom has a picture of me as probably a 3-year-old with a sport coat on, trying to get out the door to go to work with him, in the mid 70s. And so as I grew, it became more obvious what he did and how he worked in the capital markets. And in junior high, we had electives, and our small school had 3 electives: cake decorating, small engines, and my dad taught an investment class. So it was from the time I was a toddler to junior high to high school to college. This was always on my radar to get into this industry. But through those ages, you grow and different things distract you and take you different directions for short periods of time. But the investment industry was always right there. If we had the TV on at home, it was Paul Kangas or Nightly Business Review. It was Wall Street Week and those shows of yesteryear. When we would be on a road trip, we'd be driving down the road, and my dad would quiz me on what do these companies that we see the signs on the side of the road all have in common. They trade on this exchange, or they have some data point that he would want to talk about. It was how we interacted, and so I've kind of been in this business my whole life. Saturdays, my dad would take me to the office and give me a typewriter and say, "Hey, type these letters for clients or help with his posting pages," back in the day. So then when I got close to graduating from college, my focus became, how do I get into the investment business for real? My dad at the time was looking at exiting the wirehouse world and starting an independent operation. And we talked about it regularly, and I said, "How do I get in?" And he said, "I'm trying to figure out how to get out of a big firm and to start my own." And he said, "You're welcome to pursue a big firm, or you're welcome to work with me and try to figure out how to start our own firm." And that was 1995 and 1996. And I said, "I'm with you, Dad. Let's figure this out together." So it was an awesome opportunity, Dan, for me to kind of shadow him and travel around and find out what a broker dealer is and what an RIA is, and stuff that you don't really learn in college. What a clearing firm is, and what sort of systems and processes and technology that you need, and vendors that you need to build a retail investment firm. So we started a retail firm called John Graham and Associates in 1996. And I joked that my dad was John Graham and I was the associate. And we were a small independent firm. And then we, in 1999, started forming Midwestern Securities, which is our broker-dealer and RIA, and brought that function in-house. And then our growth story continued from there. But that's the early years, if you will.
So it sounds like at an early age, you're 3, you're wearing a sports coat to go to kindergarten or something like that, or preschool. And but it sounds like you didn't really have much of a choice other than to go into the family business. I love the background, Mike. Thanks for sharing. We've known each other for quite a while. We've spent some time together. And one of the things that's always struck me about you, and hearing more of that background helps solidify that picture. But you're a person of intentionality. You do things for specific reasons. And so I want to jump in to the growth area of the business. We've chatted in the past, and you speak about intentional growth. You're very focused on it. You've got high expectations of your team. You've defined very specific processes. You keep track of distinct KPIs. Maybe could you share with us a little bit about that process? What you've built. Maybe a little bit about guided conversations and some of the KPIs that you track with this intentional growth focus at the firm.
Absolutely. As a lifelong student of the investment industry, we've studied top performing financial advisors, top performing firms, best practices. We're certainly lifelong learners, and that's part of our culture here at Midwestern, is the expectation and desire to affiliate with people who also want to be growth minded and lifelong learners. So these aren't some of these things are that we've put in place are things that we've learned from other top producers and top firms, and things that we've learned through trial and error. And we've worked to simplify, make repeatable, make it as easy as possible for our people, all stakeholders, our retail clients, our financial advisors, our financial institutions, our employees, our stockholders, to make it as easy as possible for everybody to be successful. We do operate with a high degree of intentionality, with the understanding that time in life is precious, and we need to make the most of it while we have it. And the health that we have today, we may not have tomorrow. So we need to operate at our highest and best today. So we operate with that intentionality and that sense of urgency. And I know we've talked in peer groups where other larger firms and program managers and CEOs, CFOs, COOs of larger institutions have wondered, where did we come up with these things? And it has been 50 plus years of learning, implementing, observing, modifying, learning more. It's one of the frustrating things that I've self-criticized is why didn't I know this before? Why did I just learn this? And we've had to come back to this concept of peak intellectual capital, that we make the best decisions we can at the time we have with the facts that we have at that time. And we learn from them, right? Back to the adage, the only mistakes that we make are the ones we make twice. So again, learn, implement, observe, modify are things that we operate with. And so throughout our firm, we're very process and data driven. And we implement these conversations, and we teach the financial advisors and the staff, this is how we speak, and this is what we say, this is how we say it, this is how we posture. This is how we present our professional office environment, this is how we present ourselves professionally. There's a book that I'm reading right now that talks about this concept of 7-38-55. Are you familiar with that concept?
I'm not.
It's an academic study that's been incorporated throughout the business world and throughout the CIA and hostage negotiations, that says that what people remember from a conversation, 7% are the words used, 38% are the tone that you deliver it in. And I think 55% is the rest of the nonverbal feedback that you're giving that person. So we want our team to be focused on all of the 100%, the 738 and the 55. So we coach on all of it intentionally. So the guided conversation is more than the words; it's the whole experience of that conversation. And we train on it and we coach to it. This is how our client experiences occur from the time that they're a prospect. This is how we greet them. This is how the opening financial interview takes place. There is no kind of going off script. And I mean script figuratively, not literally, but we're following a format. This is how we give the client a great experience so they feel heard, they feel engaged, and they feel optimistic about the financial outcomes that are going to come from this discussion and this relationship. So we're very focused on every word, every nonverbal data point. Everything matters to give that person a great experience dealing with the rep and the firm.
Love it. A masterclass in intentionality. Mike, could you share maybe a couple of the KPIs and as you think about more of the prospecting side, pre TOA, if you will, what are from your seat leading the firm? What are maybe the top 3 KPIs that you're looking at on a daily basis?
We work heavily inside of banks and credit unions, and we also have an independent operation, and it's very robust as well. But specifically inside of financial institutions, a lot of financial institutions are used to their products and services being deposits and loans are bought. People call up and say, I need to borrow money to expand my business or buy a house. That side of the financial services are bought. The investment side, the insurance side, the security side, those sides of the financial services industry are sold, right? People don't necessarily feel a pain point, don't necessarily feel a sense of urgency, like I've got to get this farm bought because if I don't, it might not come up for sale for 40 more years. Therefore, I've got to call a banker and line up some financing. They can put off funding their Roth until April 15th, or they can put off starting moving their simple plan into a 401k for a year or two, right? They can put those things off in their mind. To delay those things are costly for them. And unfortunately, a lot of times people that delay those never implement them, and it becomes extremely costly, and they lost wealth creation and lost diversification in their portfolio. So our side of the ledger in the financial services industry requires systematic outbound activity, and that's marketing and sales. Specifically, KPIs around sales are we expect our financial advisors to have a certain amount of outbound calls, outbound contacts every week. We expect them to have a certain amount of what we call lunch and learns every month. We expect them to attend networking events, certain amount every week for networking events. We expect them to be active in the community with centers of influence, and we put a number on that. And we expect them to be doing seminars, webinars, seminars, financial education of some sort. Now, we segment our financial advisors in 3 different categories. So when a financial advisor is starting out or below certain thresholds, we manage those numbers, and we expect kind of a diversity of sales efforts. As they get successful and they find out what they're really good at and what they're not really good at, or what they don't really enjoy, we modify this, and ultimately we can shrink this down to 2 or 3 campaigns that they have ongoing. But we create a common business plan between Midwestern Securities and the bank and the financial advisor. We all 3 have to sign off on it by the end of typically around November 1st for the following year. We have monthly calls with the financial institution leadership and the financial advisors. Where are we at with these KPIs as far as making progress towards the success, making sure that the year is going to be successful. And when, so we have those KPIs. We expect the financial advisors to turn in a weekly success report to their supervisor by every Friday, which outlines these back to the what gets measured gets done thought. And then we coach to that. And again, it becomes, hopefully it's, congratulations, it was a great week. We call those can't fail weeks. You hit your KPIs, you can't fail as long as you're hitting your activities around these KPIs. And then If you did, then go home Friday night and rest well, right? And if you didn't, you might need to go back in the office on Saturday morning and hit your numbers, right? It is, we control those inputs, control those activities. There is a direct correlation with the success of the outcomes. Does that make sense, Dan? Or is there anything you wanted me to go into in more detail on those?
That's great, because it goes back to the notion of process and intentionality around process that you've built. I've seen a lot in this industry where there's ready, fire, aim, where folks aren't intentional. They're doing activity, but those activities are not necessarily distinct, discrete, and measured. Where conversations we've had, you've made it really clear that there is a process, and I love it. The notion that the only mistake you make is one that you've made twice, and you've built the process to enable mistakes to happen, because those learnings go into improving the process. With that, maybe let's jump into the technology side of things, because I know you're tech forward. You're very data oriented and data driven. You've built a great tech stack. Maybe you could discuss how you think about technology, leveraging it for better targeting, and the impact of that improved targeting on cost to acquire a new customer.
In any industry, the most important tool are the humans, right? The people that we have in the seats, and making sure that we have the right people, making sure that they're trained well, and that they're funded and they're resourced well. And that resource comes from the time that you invest with them, the tools that you give them to be as successful as possible. And part of that time and tools is coming back to those KPIs and holding them accountable. If we don't hold them accountable, we're not doing them any favors. We're delaying their failure, which makes life more difficult for them for a longer period of time, like walking through wet concrete. Let's invest in them. Let's get them successful as quickly as possible, or find out the right seat that they need to be in. Part of getting them successful as quickly as possible is investing in the technology. And the technology comes from, the technology changes, obviously, right? The technology when I started is way different than the technology today and the technology next year.
Sure.
But they have to have the latest and the greatest technology. We spend so much time and money finding these people. We need to invest in the tools to make them successful as quickly as possible. So right now we're focused is on the front end with data dashboards inside of our financial institutions, and where they can really understand the customers that they have better, where their money is coming from, where their money is going, understanding the data to better understand how to serve those customers. There's dividend checks coming in from a brokerage firm. There's premium checks going out to an insurance company. There's mortgage payments going out to another bank. Where understanding their customers and understanding where their customers are getting all their financial services, and then using that data to create a roadmap to better serve those customers, better prospect those customers. And I think that we're on the front end of that. I know there's others that are way ahead of us, but I know there's others that aren't even thinking about this too. How can we understand the data that we have better of those folks that I'm referring to? And I think then pairing that data with something like Catchlight, we're a fan of, and we've got prospect data, we've got data of people in that are target markets that we want to decide where should we put our resources. Right? Again, we have great people. We've invested the time to hire them, to train them, to pay them, to provide them great benefits. Well, we need to make sure that they have good data on who their prospects are, what their interests are, who are the people who are more likely to pay for financial advice. So they're not spending all of this time like we did 30 years ago, where you're getting a directory and you're cold calling randomly and hoping out of your 25 conversations that day, you get 2 meaningful ones. How can we be more targeted with that? And so that's the data dashboard. That's something like Catchlight to filter the data, point us in the right direction. Then we have to equip with a great CRM, which we have. We equip our reps with, and the CRM, it takes reinforcement. Reps are busy. We've created our own drip campaigns off the CRM. We've created triggers in there. A lead goes in. 30 days later, a task pops up for the financial advisor. 60 days later, a task pops up for the admin. 90 days later. So we try to make it as bulletproof that we can. All you have to do is follow the system. That comes back to, time, right? Time blocking. Where are we investing our time? And then how are we using our time? Following the system, implementing the system that's been built. We want our people to be successful, so we equip them with all of these things to be successful. And we, a lot of times, that means discouraging what some people refer to as out of the box behavior. Right? Financial advisors often have to have a very strong entrepreneurial streak in them. Their compensation is often heavily tilted towards their results, so they need to work like a business owner in that regard. But that entrepreneurialism also needs to be paired with the systems and the institutions that they're partnering with. We a lot of times we'll interview financial advisors and they say, I like to think outside the box, which means don't supervise me, which means don't hold me accountable. And that's we can't do that. Time is short. We've got to deliver results for all the stakeholders again. So we've got to be able to supervise the use and implementation of that data dashboard, of that Catchlight type, of the CRM that gives us the data that we can manage. And then we manage based off of the data of where are you succeeding? Where are you struggling?
I love the notion, and we've talked about this in the past, of the connecting time to technology, to talent. I know that's sort of underpinned by the treasure, the funding of it all. But I'd also add another T while we're at it, and that's the training. I think that the data that you're able to accumulate through the process that you've built, being able to share it through the dashboards with the team, gives them the view into what's working well, maybe what's not working so well, to help reinforce some of the intentionality that you seek from the process to improve those outcomes. I love it. It's a great way to think about it. Leveraging the drip campaigns that you have in your CRM, leveraging data to improve the outcomes of those drip campaigns is 2 thumbs up from me.
Hey, thank you.
Sure. So let's. You mentioned fatigue. I don't think there's a day that goes by that reading the trade pubs that I'm not hearing about AI. I think when we look at again trade, the industry, we're seeing a lot of M&A, really aggressive goals. I think on organic, that many firms, I suspect, aren't hitting because we're seeing low single digits on organic growth. How do you keep yourself disciplined, staying on track, and how do you bring that to your team?
It seems like our culture, evolves an awareness of health and wellness, and these conversations are always shifting. And if you were, 25, 30 years ago, if you asked me that, I would have maybe said something more like, we work hard and we play hard, and, we rejuvenate, through that time with family and what I'm calling playing hard on the weekend to decompress and de-stress. And however you do that, I have what we call the 4 pillars, 4 Fs: faith, family, fitness, and fun. If it aligns with my faith, if it's beneficial to my family, if it aligns with the general concept of fitness, of financial, spiritual, emotional, physical fitness, all components, and I enjoy it and it's fun, right? Those are the ways that we decompress and we manage that stress. Today, if you ask me that, I wouldn't phrase it as work hard, play hard. I would phrase it as work hard, rest well. And there's so much more awareness of the importance of sleep and nutrition that back, not too long ago, sleep is expendable. I can get up and I can work harder through it, but there is more value on, again, that fitness being more than just financial or physical, but spiritual, emotional fitness, so that you can maintain a high level of high performance for an extended amount of time, like a 40-year career. And that requires that intentionality. We start with the end in mind. When I was 22 years old, I wrote a 40-year business plan. What do I want to do at these data points in my life? And they were assets I wanted gathered, income I wanted to have, social components of my life. I still have it. I've got it written in a day planner that I had from 1995, I think. It might have been a 1996 day planner, but anyway, you get the idea. There's a coaching program called the Strategic Coach. It's a entrepreneurial coaching program that one of the first I participated in for years. It's for business leaders to help develop those business skills. One of the first exercises that we did in that class was write your own obituary. Start with the end in mind. What's this look like if I play it well? To my value systems, what's my life wrap up like? Who am I connected with? What's my balance sheet? What's my health? What's my standard of living? What's my spiritual life? All of those things need factored into that intentionality. So start with the end in mind. What do I want this to look like? Then work backwards. Say, in order to do that today, I need to be doing these things. Next year, I need to be doing those things. And we measure them with our daily calendars, our weekly calendaring, monthly, etc. But I've shared this concept of goals are simply planned events. If we set our goals and then we look back, kind of like time and compounding interest, what are the inputs that we need to put in? What are the variables that we need to minimize to give us the highest likelihood of a great risk-adjusted return on our life?
The compounding value of those incremental changes. As a marketer, I think about that all the time. I'm not trying to change the conversion rate from 5% to 10% from day one to day two. It's that incrementality of all the different activities. If I can improve the leads that are coming into the top of the funnel, if I can improve the engagement as those leads are pursuing through the funnel, it's an incremental lift that we get that compounds over time that we see the benefit from. Love that, Mike. So I'm going to move us to our last question. You've taken us back in time. You've taken us back to 95, 96 and writing your business life plan. Maybe if I could take us back just 5 years, share with us, and I ask all of our guests, if you knew then what you know now, what's one thing that you would change or maybe start doing to help improve the business?
It's really a tough question, and it's a humbling question. You have to ask yourself that. You can't come back and say, I wouldn't change anything. But you also have to realize we struggled, we fought through, and part of the beauty was in the struggle. So it is a tough question. But I think I would, if I could turn back the clock 5 years, I would have committed more resources to bringing more trainers in to help with some of those, again, just looking at those specific details and those specific actionable outcomes. I grew up with you mentioned the word discipline. There's a reasonable amount of self-discipline, and the expectation that I would be disciplined and be kind of self-motivated and a self-starter. And I was told, and my mom calls me the compliant one. I'm coachable. So, I was told that if I'm doing these things, these are the things that will make me successful as a financial advisor. And if I realize I'm going away from these things, that they're a distraction and they will hold back my future success. And so for the most part, I was able to stay focused, remember that, and stay focused and self-evaluate. Whiteboard time is important every week to stop and self-evaluate. Am I doing the right things? Am I investing my time and money where it should be? Or have I drifted? And do I need to self-correct quicker than later? So anyway, Dan, back to this question is, one of the things that I've done as a manager is I've expected others to operate with the same level of self-discipline and self-correction. And most of our top performers do, but there's a lot of struggling middle of the road that could become top performers if we put more resources into them. And that's, if I had to say one thing today at the time of this recording that would have been beneficial to turn back the clock 5 years, say, don't expect that others operate the same way that I do, and put more resources in to help them recognize and be accountable and be coached to their level of potential.
Good, great observation. Focus on the team, focus on the training. Well, Mike, thank you so much. Really a pleasure to have you on today. It's been a pleasure to get to know you and the Midwestern Securities team over the last couple of years. Enjoy working with you. Always enjoy our conversations. Thanks for being here today.
Dan, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you for listening to the Grow Organically podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit catchlight.ai, where you can access all our podcasts, including show notes and other resources to keep learning. This podcast was produced by Catchlight Insights, LLC. It is for informational and educational purposes only. The content of this podcast does not constitute an offer or recommendation of any securities and is not intended to provide tax, legal, or investment advice. The views expressed are those of the speakers and not necessarily those of Catchlight or its affiliates, and are as of the date indicated, based on the information available at that time, and may change based on market or other conditions. Catchlight does not assume any duty to update any of the information. Catchlight and other third parties mentioned in the podcast are independent entities and not affiliated. Catchlight does not endorse any investment advisor or provide advice or recommendations to any prospective or existing client of an investment advisor as to the selection or retention of that investment advisor. This information is not intended for any person or entity in any jurisdiction where the distribution or use of such information would be contrary to local law. Third-party trademarks referenced herein are the property of their respective owners. All others are the property of Catchlight Insights, LLC. Copyright 2025, Catchlight Insights, LLC. All rights reserved.